This is Colourful Radio. Our music, our news, our views.
So that was Dreams by Julie Ann Evans. And as you know, today we are speaking about self-love with a focus on authenticity. Sometimes who we are and who we really are doesn't match for many reasons. And the aim is to get back to who we really are. And to do that, we have to tap into ourselves. Self-audits through reflection are good as it helps to check in to see where we are at and to see whether our feelings match our actions. I'm joined by Dr Nina Burrowes, who is here to talk more about self-love and so much more. Nina, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for coming. On Sundays, I normally do a thing called Appreciation Sunday, and it's where we sort of take time out to reflect on where we are at right now. So what we're grateful for and what we appreciate. So putting you on a spot, what do you appreciate today, or what are you grateful for today?
Well, actually, so you were just talking about the weather and you were talking about the rain, and I got rained on this week, and I actually really enjoy summer rain. As long as you're not walking to an important event, as long as you're going home, actually getting properly drenched in the summer. I love the smell of rain on our hot pavement. And so I'm definitely, when you were saying that earlier, I was like, oh no, I appreciate the rain.
It's the little things, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely.
I was saying last week, but I also got drenched in the rain, and I got drenched because I had an umbrella in my bag, but I realised that I hadn't walked in the rain in years, maybe since I was maybe 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. And so last week I decided not to open up the umbrella and just walk home, and I was soaking.
And I bet you were smiling, yeah?
But it was so nice. It was actually so refreshing. And again, it's just the simple things of feeling raindrops on your skin. Take so much for granted. So
yeah, I think being playful too. I think sometimes as adults we can downplay being playful, and actually being playful is one of the most fun things to do, but it's important too.
Fully agree with you. Now, you are a psychologist, researcher, illustrator and author who uses your work to help people understand themselves and others. You have, is it 2 illustrated books?
I do, yeah.
One is called The Courage to Be Me, and the other one is called The Little Book on Authenticity, which helps people to understand psychology in an easy and engaging way. What prompted you to use illustration as a way to break down psychology?
It was something actually I was already doing myself. I think I must be a visual learner. So have you heard of mind maps?
Yes.
I used mind maps throughout my entire education. So this is taking information and turning it into something visual so that you can remember it better. And I swear that's the only reason I managed to get my degree, is the power of mind maps. But I've always been the kind of person to take an idea and want to work with it in that way. I'm not really a list person. I'm definitely a picture person. And also when I was training in counselling, when I would do my session notes, so after you've been with a client, you have to write up your session notes afterwards. Yeah. And I just naturally doodled mine. Like I didn't write notes. I drew matchstick people cartoons. And it just made sense to me that some of that content, when it's that emotional or powerful or very human, it made sense to my brain to turn that into a cartoon.
Wow.
So in many ways, I was doing it naturally. Also, my own personal journal at home, my diary, that evolved from being something I wrote in, like everybody does, to something I doodled. So I think I was already doing it. And the thing that changed is I would say to myself, oh, it's such a shame I can't draw. Yeah, I wish I was one of these people that was talented at drawing. And one day somebody challenged me on that. They said, no, you could just learn to draw. In fact, you can learn to draw in 5 days. Wow. And I was like, no, not me. But actually, no, you really can. So I decided to learn.
So it seems like you battled the concept of being good enough by judging your work, by actually just letting go of that and just doing you. Yeah,
I had a rigid way of thinking I can't draw. And somebody invited me to get a bit more flexible with that idea, and so I went with that, and they were absolutely right. It's not easy. It's sitting down and dedicating yourself to learning a new skill. It's a bit like saying, oh, I can't play the piano. Yeah, if you've never sat in front of a piano and tried, then you probably can't. But if you dedicate hundreds of hours to practicing, guess what? You'll be able to play the piano. Drawing's exactly the same.
And you found there was power in the doodling?
Yeah, I think the psychology I tend to work in is intense. To me, it's the interesting challenge is taking very difficult psychology, difficult intellectually, but also difficult emotionally, and using a medium that is very compassionate and human. So there's a really good match between cartoons, something that's simple and human and gentle, and very difficult and challenging things to talk about.
And so is that your aim in regards to your books, to deal with complex issues, and being mindful that it may have to be expressed in a gentle way for people to maybe hear it or see it in a more less frightening way? Yeah,
I just, the aim of all my work is to help people understand themselves and other people. And I think we're able to hear sometimes, we're only able to hear what we're able to hear, what we're ready to hear, and see what we're able to see. And I think sometimes cartoons can give you permission to see more than you would normally see. And not everybody necessarily wants to go and have intense therapy, but maybe some of those people would pick up a graphic novel, one of my books. So I think cartoons, it gives you access to a different audience, but also there's something very powerful about the medium, because you can be poignant and emotional. And if I was a poet, I could probably be poignant with words, but I'm not. I'm a trained academic. I'm trained to write in the third person and be decidedly non-poignant with my words. But with cartoons, you can be very human. And I think if you're writing about something that is very human, then it's a great medium to use. And I've noticed that from the little I've seen of your books, they're mainly in black and white. Yes. Is there a reason as to why they're not in colour? Some of that is pragmatic. Right. I'm still not very good at drawing, and the idea of embracing colour is just too much for
really?
me.
Is that the only... I thought there was this bigger meaning behind it.
Well, having started doing it on that level, I actually really like the simplicity. So I've gone through this journey of initially being a bit frustrated about how my drawing wasn't how I wanted it to be, to now actually really valuing. I think there's something quite vulnerable about not being able to draw brilliantly but doing it anyway. And I think actually my style happens to work really well for the content I'm covering. So I do hope to get much better with my drawing, but I actually really like my style at the moment. There's something a bit raw about it, which is appropriate. See, it's really funny, and this is all perception as well, obviously, isn't it? And it's all subjective, because I looked at what you do and I think it's brilliant. And so when you're saying, when I get better and I'm like, but it's already so good. But it is just interpretation, and it's how you view what you do and how I receive it. It is whatever it is. It's not ever going to really match. Yeah, absolutely. It's from where you're standing from. I just have an idea of where I'd like to be, and I know there's a big distance, but I celebrate that journey. I love the fact that I will continue to improve for the rest of my life. Yes. I don't want to be able to click my fingers and be awesome tomorrow. Yes. So I love looking at some of my old drawings and recognizing I have come a long way with drawing, but I have this idea of who I want to be in 20 years' time and what I'll be drawing like then. And that's kind of what's motivating me. So that's what's behind my comments when I say I'm not very good. It's like, no, I can see who I want to be in the future. When you were speaking, I was wondering, because everyone does learn differently, this would be a great skill to learn in school. Yeah, because everyone learns differently. Yeah. If you're a visual learner, which I definitely am, then why wouldn't we should all play to our strengths? And visual learning was obviously my strength. And through learning mind maps, I was able to walk into the exam room with 100% memory recall because I'd used mind maps. But that mind map is a technique. Someone had to show me how to do it. But once they'd shown me, I ran with that. It was like, this was made for me. This is how my brain works. And I think it can be so liberating. I think you can think that you're not that smart, you're not that clever. It's a bit like finding the sport for you. We've all got a sport, a activity. I think we've also all got a creative outlet. Maybe it's music or art or whatever. We've also all got a way of learning. And it's about someone showing you that. So if you're struggling, for me, it's really, you just haven't found your way yet. So keep searching. And there's so many things now out there where we can sort of look into ourselves and look out of ourselves as well to find those things. Like Google, or the internet, should I say, is absolutely amazing. But then it's really hard to try and find something if you don't actually know what you're looking for. Yeah. What am I looking for? Search. Yeah, what are you looking for? Search. We should actually try that. I wonder what comes up if we used to do that. But yeah, no, it is really difficult. And as you said, you learn about mind mapping and illustration because someone else showed you, and from then you realised that resonated with you and you ran with it. Yeah. So it's just,
it's really difficult, especially for people in education, because they've got so much to teach, and they're trying to cater for everyone, and sometimes people will be missed. So how much responsibility can a young person really have if they don't even know it exists? That is one of my questions that I always kind of say, and it's really difficult.
I think it is, but I think education can focus a little bit too much on the content. Let me give you some facts or information instead of let me show you how to learn. Like learning is a process, and it's a lifelong journey. I still see myself as a student. I will never stop learning about the things that fascinate me. And what I have is a process of learning. I understand how I learn, how I find it exciting and interesting. And it's that tool that I think is a great gift that the education system could give you. Let me help you learn how to learn. You'll sort the rest out. Once you have your process, you can fill in the information bit. It's the how you do it that's the more interesting, the more difficult, and the more empowering.
Brilliant. I was saying the book on authenticity and The Courage to Be Me are two books that invite the reader to look at complex issues for further self-exploration. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a bit more about the book on authenticity, especially as today the theme is self-love, but the focus is on authenticity?
Okay, authenticity.
So what does it look like from your perspective?
So my perspective on authenticity is that I find that a lot of people actually misunderstand the term. So a lot of what I'm doing in that book is actually just explaining, this is actually what authenticity is about. Many people seem to have a passive relationship with being themselves, as if it's something that just kind of happens automatically, or it's something that you need to find or discover. We often use words like that. I'm looking for myself, going to discover myself. And actually in the book, what I do is take us back to the roots of the word. The roots of the word authenticity is author. So actually being authentic is an active and creative process. It isn't about finding you, it's about writing you. It's about creating you and choosing you. So in the book I explain why that's actually really quite frightening, because you have all this freedom to choose, what kind of person would you like to be? And that's brilliant and amazing and beautiful and fantastic that we have this choice. It's our gift as human beings, but it's a challenging gift to live with, because no one can tell you the answer to that question. Right. No one can say, oh yeah, you're getting it right, or you're doing it wrong. It is your choice alone, and you need to have the courage to live that choice. Which can lead to some really interesting psychology and some quite interesting doodles as well.
So where did you begin? Like, how did you get onto your path of being authentic?
Gosh, when does it begin? I don't know if there is a moment. I think it's a process where I think there's a time when you are able to see it openly and be aware that is what you were doing. And perhaps certainly training as a psychologist, you then learn a whole different language around it. But I definitely feel that authenticity is a lifelong journey, and now I have a very clear and open relationship with it. I'll talk about it, I can draw about it, but I was still doing those things before. I guess no one had given me the language, and I think also it's something that does happen as you get a bit older. As you know, a lot of people are buying the book for the young adults in their lives. You know, when you're working yourself, who do you want to be? Because lots of people could be asking you that question when you're sort of, 16, 17, 18. People are saying, well, what do you want to do with your life? That's a big question.
Massive.
It's a big question. And also, actually, I don't know if it's the most useful question. I think what kind of person do you want to be is actually much more helpful. And that is a question that you can ask yourself for your whole life. But what do you want to do, actually, to me, is slightly less interesting than what kind of person do you want to be, what kind of values.
Also limiting as well, because what do you want to do? I know that when I was 16, I didn't know many jobs. I knew what my mum did, and that was okay, but I didn't like blood because she's a nurse.
Right.
I didn't want to work in a police force because it didn't interest me. But it's quite limited. You're sort of like, you only know what you know, which is in your kind of bubble. And so you're probably more likely to find that you're repeating what your friends are saying.
Yeah, because that's all you know.
Because that's all you know.
Yeah.
So you're right.
And the truth is different. I mean, at 17, I didn't say to myself, I want to become a cartooning psychologist. I mean, like you, I probably could have written a long list of all the things I definitely didn't want to do. But for the rest of it was a bit of a question mark. And what I find now is embracing that question mark. Like, what am I going to be doing in 20 years' time? I don't know, and that's not a problem.
But who do you want to be?
What kind of person do I hope I'm being in 20 years' time? I'm massively interested in the answer to that question.
See, that is a question I don't think I've ever been asked that. I have been asked, who do you want to be? And when I was younger, I did say Oprah.
Right.
But then the point is that you shouldn't have to...
What is it about Oprah?
Right, and that leads you to the qualities.
Yeah, the more important what's behind
right,
your
because it's
choice.
not about morphing into another person.
No, it's about who you're going to become yourself.
That's it.
And you don't just become it, and this journey doesn't end. You wake up every morning and you decide to be the person you aspire to be or not. You decide to be, am I being the best version of myself right here and now? Because I can always make that choice. No matter what's happening around me, I can choose to exercise the best in me at any moment. But you need to decide, well, what is the best in you? What you get to choose.
Yes, you do. And right now we are going to hear from Fantasia.
Are you sure?
Right, I'm really positive. And it's called When I See You.
This is Colourful Radio.
Our music, our
news,
news,
our views.
Now, the focus on today's show is self-love. And last week, Nina, you did a talk at the South Bank as part of Love Bites, a series of talks by different people. And your talk was entitled On the Greatest Love of All and Why Whitney Houston Was Right About Self-Love. Great title and great song. Can you provide a summary in points explaining why Whitney was indeed correct?
Would you like me to doodle it as well?
If you can, please.
Yeah, do it live now. There's not many love songs about loving ourselves. Like Whitney Houston, I struggle to think of any more. And to me, that's a great shame because as a psychologist, self-love is fundamentally important. And the fact that we don't really talk about it, I think, is tragic. I think for two reasons. I think a lack of love for ourselves is at the root of most of the problems we face. I think if loving ourselves is one of our key ingredients, and if we don't have any love for ourselves, that leaves us with an emptiness, and it's an emptiness that can only be filled by us. There's nobody else and nothing else that can fill it. But we make the mistake of trying to fill it elsewhere because it feels easier. Feels easier to get you to solve this problem for me. Feels easier to buy myself a nice car and feel good about myself instead of doing the work that needs to be done to love me. And it's tragic because I think our response to that approach of looking elsewhere for something that is only inside, that can bring out the worst that human behaviour's got to offer. It's at the root of most of our social problems, our relationship with the environment, consumerism. We are all hungry for something, but we're looking for it in a shopping bag, and it isn't there. It's in us. It's the only place. So it's tragic that we don't have it. It's also tragic because loving myself, that is also the doorway to loving anybody else. Yeah. If I can't love me, I don't have anything to offer you. So I think with love, we make the mistake of thinking that it's almost like we put it in bags. This is my love for my family. This is my love for my partner. Love for some people in my community. It's like, I don't have any left for me, but that's okay because we live in a society where apparently being selfless or self-sacrifice is something that we quite admire in people. Whereas those terms just make me shudder. What do you mean? Self-sacrifice? I mean, listen to the words. You're sacrificing yourself. And we make the mistake of thinking that love is separate like this when it's not. We've separated something that can't be separated. So love is all or nothing. If I can't love me, I can't love you. And if I can't love the person sitting next to me on the bus, it means I can't love anyone else either. It is all or nothing. So I honestly think that the love we have for ourselves, that's the only way to love anyone else and for it to be real.
Again, it's another simple term, but it just for some reason it seems so difficult to do.
It is difficult. At no point am I saying it's easy. So I have to say Whitney Houston she said that the greatest love of all is easy to achieve. I'm sorry, Whitney. Like, you were great, awesome at singing and all the rest of it, but you're wrong on that point. Loving yourself is not easy to achieve, but it is the doorway to everything else.
It is, yeah. I mean, who we are is central to everything.
Yes.
It's how we respond to other people. It's how we treat other people. And it's also about how we let other people treat us.
Yeah, totally.
Because it does inform your self-worth. So it's the levels, the bar you set as to how other people should be treating you, and it's
Absolutely.
very difficult.
This is why my love for myself reflects my love for you, because the things I can see in me and I love in me, I can see them in you, and I celebrate them in you, and I can celebrate them in a way that I'm not threatened by them or anything like that. That to me is true love. That's beautiful. But I can only do that if I love myself.
So people who have tendencies of being jealous, would you say potentially it's because they don't have a full unconditional self-love for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. They are. That to me is a sign of someone who's looking for the thing that is only in themselves, but they're looking for it elsewhere. So that's why they're threatened by don't you love me? So I think so self-centered. That's something we accuse people of being. Oh, they're so self-centered. And I'm like, my goodness, if you place your center anywhere other than on yourself, you're going to be off balance. If you go through your life off balance, that means you're going to be looking for other people or other things to lean on all the time. That'd be the only way that you'll be able to get through life. But instead, if you are self-centered in that you have a center and it is on yourself, then the way that you're able to interact with people is completely different. You're not leaning on them because you need them to pick you up off the ground. You're choosing to make contact with them, not because you need them, not because you have to, but because you choose to. And that's the only way to make genuine connections with people.
And it's you being the author, as you said before, the author of your own life.
To practice self-love, you need the first thing, which is a self, and that is not. I mean, that's a lot of work right there. But there is nothing more meaningful to do in life than to answer your own question. To choose what kind of person you want to be.
Gosh.
It's big, isn't it?
It's massive.
You want to turn that into doodles?
Yes, let's. I think you should do a class on doodles to help. Well, joking aside, there is power in doodling.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been proven that art therapy is very therapeutic and cathartic. So there is something in it as well if you do choose to use that method.
Yeah, absolutely. So my when I said that I tackle big issues with my work, my other book, The Courage to Be Me, is a book for anybody out there who's experienced any kind of sexual abuse. And in that book, I am using illustration to send a message to those people to help them understand themselves and the experience that they've had. And I think helping somebody make sense of themselves can be very empowering for them. To help them understand something as difficult as that is really powerful. And the illustration is such a gentle and compassionate way to do that.
Gosh, again, it is complex. So the fact that you can you can reduce the magnitude and complexity of it by drawing is something amazing.
It's really, I'm enjoying the challenge, but it is a massive challenge. When I started cartooning, I was concerned that my fellow psychologists might accuse me of dumbing down. And oh my goodness, I'm not dumbing down, I'm distilling. The book, especially the little book on authenticity, is a little book. I think it's about 90 pages, but it is raw psychology, it in a very pure form. You could spend 10 minutes looking at one page, probably spend months trying to understand the whole book in its entirety.
Wow.
And I think there's, to be able to take something like that and to distill it into its purest form and make it accessible, that's not dumbing down.
It's also really unique as well. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know anyone else who is doing this. I could be wrong. I'm sure there is. I don't know.
The wonderful thing is, if you search on the internet for the cartooning psychologist, you'll find one person, and that would be me.
Yes.
Yes, I'm dominating the cartooning psychology, but because I'm creating it.
And you're the first, which is what we like.
But to me, this is me. I like to walk my own talk. My authenticity. Who do I choose to be? What kind of person? A lot of that's about having the courage to live this stuff yourself. I'm the only cartooning psychologist because that's what I chose to create when I asked myself that question.
Brilliant. Dr Nina Burrowes, thank you very much for your time. It's been fabulous. Guys at home, thank you for listening as always. And I see you the same time, the same place next week. And I'm going to leave you with the words of Whitney Houston, the greatest love of all. Really listen to the lyrics.